This is where and why the imperial system and its derivations beat the metric and SI systems. Imperial and customary give us the units which we typically use for our everyday purposes. They may lack conversion power, but that's precisely the point. Outside of school, and assuming that you are not a mathematician, a scientist, or the like, when's the last time which you've needed to convert an inch to a mile or a gallon to a pint? Very rarely, if ever. If it's too big or too small for the scope of one unit, then you switch to another accordingly. Question for metric folks. Assuming that you are out of school and are not a mathematician, a scientist, or the like, how often do you need convertibility, and even then, why so? Sometimes you may need to say something like 3 feet 2 inches or 1 gallon 2 pints, but this is another advantage which the imperial/customary system has over the metric/SI system. More reference points. I am, of course, referring to the three most common units of measurement, i.e. distance, liquid, and weight. With the metric/SI system, there is only one reference point per measurement type, its base unit, i.e. meter, liter, and gram. Any other unit must refer back to that one reference point, which is likely to result in decimals or big numbers, thus being hard to work with in the kitchen and such, whereas the imperial/customary system has at least three reference points per measurement type: distance/height, inch, foot, yard, etc., liquid, teaspoon, tablespoon, pint, gallon, etc., weight, pound, stone, ton, etc. Having more reference points means less strain on the brain and less backtracking when mistakes are made. It's like having more road markers. So if you're not a mathematician, a scientist, or the like, why should you care about conversion speed and that the metric/SI system is, quote-unquote, the system of science? How much of the rest of your life is, quote, scientific, unquote? Programmers and graphic designers should know exactly what I mean. Simply because a programming or studio environment/language may have a feature which another does not, that does not make the environment/language better as a whole. Visual C and Java may be more powerful than Visual Basic, but Visual C takes 3 hours when Visual Basic needs 3 minutes, and Java requires creating objects from scratch while Visual Basic has them pre-made. It just makes more sense to work in 3 minutes and with pre-made objects for simple applications. Let's, for the sake of argument, disregard the fact that no one system of weights and measurements is inherently scientific, even if the metric and SI systems are more quote-unquote scientific than the imperial/customary system. That does not make them better for everyday life. The USA adopting the metric/SI system would be like buying a $1 billion microscope for reading a book or a spaceship for driving down the road. They may be more quote-unquote scientific, but they don't serve the intended purpose well at all. Does it make sense to sacrifice the inch and the foot, which are very commonly used units, for the centimeter? No, it doesn't. Case in point, we use what's useful and efficient for the situation, as we should. And for the pro-metric people, particularly the ones who are pushing for a metric United States of America, if you're going to be consistent with your metric philosophy, then you should stop using such anti-metric terms like minute, hour, day, week, month, season, year, etc., and use the metric equivalents. 60 seconds per minute, 3,600 seconds an hour, 86,400 seconds per day, 604,800 seconds per week, 2,419,200 to 2,678,400 seconds per month, 7,257,600 to 8,035,200 seconds per season, and 31,556,736, or 31,557,600 seconds, depending upon the exact decimal point used, per year. And for those who use nanoseconds, multiply all those numbers by a billion. So, as with the Great British Empire example, to say that the metric, SI, imperial, or any other measuring system is supreme and/or only one should be used for everything is not only untrue, but, assuming that the speaker uses more than one series/standard of units, is also intellectual inconsistency, intellectual dishonesty, and intellectual hypocrisy. So, as some pro-metric/SI people say, usually sarcastically, quote, "Ah, the imperial system, such a logical, reasonable system of measurements and units," unquote. To which I respond, yes, it is. If you first take off your biased glasses and put aside your preconceived opinions and ideas to honestly research and understand the history, philosophical criteria, and original intentions of the designers of said system and the current use of said system, instead of with your biased glasses and preconceived opinions and ideas, say or think something like, quote, "Oh, this system does not use base 10 logic, doesn't use multiples and submultiples of 10 for its units, can't convert quickly, isn't officially used in science, isn't global, and furthermore, it is different than the metric and SI systems, therefore it's broken and worthless, and those who use it must have something wrong with them." Now tell me, folks, who here is the closed-minded, unreasonable, unfair, inconsiderate, and intolerant one? Also, for you science folks, are not two basic scientific principles the search for new and/or different ideas and possibilities, and to always remain open to new and/or different ideas and possibilities, even if they contradict what you already believe? My final judgment is as follows. The metric and SI systems, with all their strict algorithms, rigid methodologies, and tedious programs, are for Android robot computer calculator machines, whereas the imperial/customary system, with its easy access to everyday tools, kitchen hints, common distances, and quick associations, are for human beings. Of course, that was analogy and metaphor to communicate a point. Obviously, either a human or a machine can use either, but the imperial/customary system is better for human beings and their everyday lives. Case in point, the metric, SI, and the imperial/customary systems have their purposes, and I don't see it as a competition between them. They serve three different purposes. The metric and SI systems stink in everyday life, but are great in areas where measurements need to be extremely precise and/or where uncommon things need to be measured. The imperial/customary system is based upon what is most efficient for the individual purposes of the people doing the measuring, while the metric and SI systems are based upon abstract things like math, so that conversions are easier and faster. So in everyday life, I suggest that we all should use the imperial/customary system to be more effective and efficient, and that the scientists should use the metric and/or SI systems for international purposes, and then convert the results to imperial/customary when informing the public. They already have to convert the results anyway, because when dealing with such large or small measurements, we have no base of comparison. So what's the big deal? Case in point, each one serves a unique purpose, thus none of these standards is quote-unquote better or worse or more scientific or less scientific than the other two. Also, as a life lesson, never automatically assume that there are only two mutually exclusive options, either A or B. First, try to learn if there is an option C. And finally, just a friendly reminder, as previously stated, no measuring standard is better than the others. Each one has been designed with a specific purpose in mind, thus it would be unfair to compare them with the intent of finding out which one is superior, like comparing saws to hammers and drills and declaring that one is superior to the others. Use one here and use the other over there and use the last one yonder. So why do people insist that there be a competition between the metric, SI, and imperial systems to begin with when we can use them as needed? What's the big deal? Thank you.